Ted, it should be a little easier at least to concentrate on the game. We don't have four other sheets of action going this afternoon. Seems a little strangely quiet.
Yes, it seems funny up here.
A nice rock about 2 feet in front of the rings. And Mike Harris immediately going right in behind it.
Harris defeated Werenich in round-robin play.
Ten to 8. It was back in round 5. That seems like 3 weeks ago now.
Yes, I think we'll have a fairly high-scoring game here today, the way these fellows play.
Todd Tsukamoto right by the guard and right on the button. That gives us a good one, Ted. It was 26.96, 27 seconds to the button. So that's been a little slower than normal, but I imagine by about the third end she'll be right up to same speed as the week. Neil Harrison trying to come right down to the face of that stone. By the guard close.
Yes, Eddie likes to get right into it. He goes short with his first rock. He's right out to steal the first point off Harris.
And Mike Harris asking Todd Tsukamoto to duplicate that shot. Ted, both teams are very, very strong at the lead position here.
Yeah, they're both excellent players. Neil naturally having an awful lot of experience in this type of competition.
Got it by close, real close. And right up on top of it, sitting right on it. Oh. I don't think, Ted, we're going to be in for a dull game at all.
I think Shorty could have saved some paint and just used the 4-foot circle paint.
I think you're correct. Here's Pat Perot with his first rock of the game.
Pat's been on 2 World Championship teams. He played with Al Hackner and won it again in 1990 with Ed Werenich.
It was nice for Mark to mention yesterday that Hackner was in a playoff and he and Ricky Langer playing together again, which ought to shake up a few people. That's a good combination. So a little tap on the guard. We've got 2 stones out in front of the rings, and Ed Werenich lies one right on the 4-foot, but we've got a Mike Harris stone frozen right to it. Here's Drew Macklin. Looks like they're trying to remove one guard and maybe get both or come in off it.
Sometimes if that those are separated a little more, you can hit it in the middle and your shooter will continue on right into the rings. So we'll see what happens here.
Boys are right on it. Well, he got both Yellowstones, Ted, but it left
he hit a little fat on.
Left about 3/4 covered now. You know, if I was playing sometimes in a club game, I think I'm in great shape to steal a point, but not with these guys. They'll make the double raise and count 3.
That's right. They look at all the angles, that's for sure.
Pat Perot again going to throw up a short putt. Well, Ted, we'll give you. Do you have any predictions on this game, or are you going to hazard one?
I wouldn't bet one way or the other.
Well, you've got someone with the wealth of experience, and Mike Harris is capable of any shot in the book. He's made some tremendous stones this week. So,
yeah, he can throw the draw any time, and he can still throw that hard shot you need occasionally to remove 3 or 4 rocks out of the rings.
Here's Drew Macklin, and he's looking to remove both of those stones, Ted.
I think he'd like to get them out of there and so he can get into the 4-foot area.
Whoa, right up, let it go. Whoa.
Power sweeping there by Eddie Werenich gets it out the back rings.
I think he had the broom upside down.
I tell you, we can say an awful lot about Ed Werenich's curling ability, but he sure brought life to this game, too. Here's first shot for John Kawaja, again looking for another short stone.
Kawaja is certainly one of the best vices in likely Canada. He has a ton of experience going back as far as the schoolboy days, where I think he lost in the finals to win the Canadian schoolboys.
Ted, is there a little bit of that blue stone exposed at all?
Looks like there's a little opening there.
With the caliber of players here, a little opening is all they need.
Yeah, I think that guard just drew over a little bit too much. But
no, they're going to take it off.
they're going to.
Hopefully trying. Ted, do you believe to get rid of both those yellow stones and roll the shooter?
I imagine that's what they'll attempt.
Now, Richard Hart sure is capable of it. He drove the one yellow rock back. I think they would have liked it clearer than that, Ted.
Yeah, I think they'd like to get rid of that other yellow out of there. So this gives Eddie a chance to put the guard on this side. So
Ted, have you played Eddie Werenich before yourself?
yes, I've played him a few times, and we played him in 1975. Actually, he was playing second for Paul Savage the year we won Ontario. Played him in the first game of the round robin, and we beat him there and lost our second game and went on and won all the rest. So in those days there was no playoffs.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, you know. You figure this morning we would have had a playoff at 7-2 for one game for it all, but now with this playoff situation, you're here, and the previous record doesn't really matter. It's one game for all the marbles, so it makes a difference, I think.
Yeah, the only time there was playoffs back then was if there was tiebreakers and that, but you were so tired by the end of the week. I don't know if you could have played in a final game. We played 3 12-man games a day.
That's too many.
3 days in a row.
Here's a real strong one from Richard Hart here on the front stone. Tried back, didn't quite get it. They're trying to raise back, I think. Well, it's interesting to note, Ted, we're in the first end of the game. I have 7 stones in play with 2 to come. A few years ago, you just wouldn't have seen that. It would have been peeled right off.
Yes, this new rule certainly has changed the game plans. We used to keep it pretty simple. First couple ends, get a feel of the ice, but now they go right at one another.
Well, you almost can't afford not to, because if you don't, the other person will. So
that's right, and the ice conditions are so much better. Shorty is really a master of arena ice, so you can play that right from the first rock.
I hate to say this, but what turn is Eddie throwing?
Well, he certainly sets up the ends for the out turn, and I don't blame him. You throw the one that you feel confident with.
Yeah. Well, if you can throw it like he does.
I thought this week Eddie looked a little tired. His team didn't. The whole team seemed a bit tired. they've had a long season. Eddie got involved in the national mixed play and had 14 games in 1 week in that. And it's like
we're looking
made
at
a toll on it.
quite a shot here already, Ted. Mike Harris says he wants to play the ricochet off the outside shots, checking on the angle to try to pick out that Werenich stone in the button. And I won't bet against it because he made a shot similar to this morning to score 3, so he can make them. Yeah, I noticed that too. That was a long haul, 14 games in the mixed, your regionals, then to have to go through the challenge round and the B side of it besides. They've played a lot of games.
Yeah, certainly he took the long route to get here. So, and you know, I don't think he's been really that sharp all week, but he's still out there playing. So,
yeah, he's there, and right now that's what matters. You've got one game, one game at a time. And if he's taken the long way all the way around, so maybe that's an omen. I don't know. Here's Mike Harris going for an out-turn wick off his own stone, go across and take out the Werenich stone buried on the forefoot. He's close. He got it. What a shot by Mike Harris.
Just incredible. Just incredible.
I told you he made one like that this morning. And now the thing changes around. Oh, man. How many people, Ted, in club games would even have a thought of even trying that, especially with their first shot?
how do you defend against something like that?
Well, you need a guard that covers the whole width of the sheet, I think. Beautiful shot by Mike Harris in the first end.
Well, that could be a game winner right there.
Yeah, because Eddie Werenich's got to do something now to keep from getting a real big end scored on him, because Mike Harris still has a shot to come. What a stone.
Eddie really doesn't have a shot.
I think Donnie Duguid would have liked to see that one with the instant replay for a few times. What do you think, Ted?
He'd likely have called it wrong. I don't see any way Eddie has a way in to save that.
No, but the only thing he's got, maybe tap up one of the outside ones back. But if you do that, you begin to open up. If you don't get it, you open up the shot for Mike Harris to get the fourth one in.
That's right, to an easy draw. So he might be better to play the draw around, try to go through the hole and tighten up the rings anyway.
Eddie's indicating he's going to play the raise back on the yellow one.
Well, he's a gambler, and he proved that in the Skins game when he made that big raised takeout against Russ Howard to end up winning $47,000 that weekend. So.
He does have a bit of an angle too, Ted, on those back ones. He might be able to catch the back one if it's a slight angle. So we've got a good one here. Here's Eddie. And don't bet against him making this one either. Line looks good. Line's good. Oh, curl just a shade too far. Puts it through the rings. And Eddie Werenich's going to give up at least 3 in the first end, and Mike Harris has a crack at getting into the rings for 4. That's a different start than we expected, Ted.
Well, that shot of Mike certainly set up this end. Eddie looked pretty good shape to steal a point.
But not only did he come off the outside and pick out Eddie Werenich's shot, he left us both sitting there just perfectly.
Yes. And stayed with his shooter.
That would be kind of demoralizing to throw one like that at somebody.
I'm glad I'm sitting up here, not out there.
I agree with you. But Mike Harris has done that all week. He has made some spectacular shots. Well, here comes one. Got to play the out-turn draw through the ports. Got to get her to the rings. Not going to get that one out of there. 4 points in the first end for Mike Harris. And what a start. So after one end, it's Mike Harris of Tam Heather, 4, and Ed Werenich of Avonlea, nothing. And who would have thought, Ted, we'd have had a start like that?
Well, that was certainly one of the finest curling shots I've seen in a long time. There's been a lot of great shots out here this week, but that has to rate among the tops.
Not only that, I've seen him do it twice, but he didn't have much more than what, about 3-4 inches on that rock to see, Ted?
Oh, yeah, at the most. Well, you can count on them coming in the rings this time, and Eddie will certainly try and get some junk up front and get a couple points back to get started here.
Yeah, we sure aren't going to see a takeout game from now on. The guys will be going to get a couple back. But don't bet against Eddie getting them back. It was interesting this morning. He was 4 points up, and Kirk Ziola came back, and then they had a real battle. So it's still there, and we've got 9 ends. Was that deliberate, Ted, to be through?
I think he wanted on the 4-foot, but the percentage is to be on the 4-foot or be through. So he certainly doesn't want it short. So, that's good thinking on Todd's part to, think percentage.
You don't want one deck behind the tee line now that they can start freezing to and get a jam off.
Well, you'd like it right on top of the buttons, and but you don't want to drop one short, that's for sure.
If you're Mike Harris, do you go in behind? That's what he's going to do. Does that take away the advantage of that guard from Eddie Werenich, Ted? Is that the idea?
Yeah, I guess the way they figure is that it blocks off the corner, so it prevents them from using the corner.
Todd Tsukamoto looks like he's got a good shot. He's not out of the blue area yet, so he's by the guard. Clear by about 4 inches, and they're pulling her hard to try to bury part of it. Behind the guard.
Yeah, that's an interesting call of Mike's. Another play is to go the other side on the edge of the 4-foot and take away that corner guard.
He'd almost have to play you. I mean, you can't let you guard the button when you're 4 down. Anyway, here's Neil Harrison trying to play the freeze right up to that shot that Todd Tsukamoto just threw behind the guard. Looks close, Ted.
Yeah, they're taking a good look at it. Kept the brooms off it, so.
He moved it back about 8 inches, so here. And Mike Harris is not going to fool around. That guard's going to go. So he's going to ask Drew Macklin to remove it.
Mike talks it over with the second, which turn he prefers. They can throw the big weight whenever they like, eh?
That's for sure, and throw it accurately. It's not they're not heaving it at the stone. It's thrown very, very cleanly.
And with no effort. They're talking about going around or guarding, and Eddie says come right around it and put one in. Well, they certainly try and work on everything.
So we're going to come around to guard in the 8-foot ring. No quarter asked or given, Ted. Pat Pro is rock is out by center line, starting to move now. That came a little too much, Ted. I think he was a little lighter than they thought.
Maybe a little softer. It did come likely a little more than Eddie expected. So Mike will just try and remove that rock that Pat's just thrown in there.
Drew Macklin will be coming down with the out turn.
No!
right off it.
He's likely looking for the double right here.
He didn't get the double. He jammed the one yellow rock on the other one and moved their own counter back. It leaves Eddie Werenich sitting on the 4-foot with a Harris counter at the back of the 12th. Do you freeze to that one, Ted?
Imagine Eddie try and freeze, and either that or throw the corner guard again.
He's going to go up on an angle above it. I guess they would be afraid of the hit on the 4-foot and the rollover and cutting that stone out if they froze it.
It's sure interesting, some of these calls.
That road may be slightly heavy here. No, he hangs on the back of the rings. I can't tell from my line of sight. I think he would be second shot. But the rings are lying. It looks like it. Mike Harris indicating they're going to try for the two of them.
He could jam it on his own.
Here comes Richard Hart.
Shot.
Almost a nose hit, little roll to the left, and
What was that comment?
Eddie says he's going to tap it back. He says, "Yeah, I guess so." Not bothered. He's still taking after it.
Yeah, looks good. Nice job.
He may be 4 down, but he's not out. First shot by John Kawaja. They're going right up to it. Sweeping hard. Lot of sweeping here. Lots of room. Coming up the center line now. Starting to move. Looks like a good stone. Right up to it. And sits it right on top of it. Ted, a little bit of separation there. 3 or 4 inches, I guess.
Yeah, there's a little space between them, but
well, needless to say,
it's try and chip that out.
Yeah, it's going to be shot at. Richard Hart. Chipped it right out of there.
Nothing's safe. Nothing's safe in this game.
You either put it in there with super glue or it's gone. I tell you, I've been impressed all week. John Kawaja is going to have to put it back.
I thought John played exceptionally strong all week. I think that's likely the big reason why they're still out there playing.
I was talking to one of the ladies down in the locker room. Eddie says he's too old for this until the game starts.
Right. Until there's money on the line.
Yeah. Right on top of it this time. That's
No
solid.
mistake this time.
2 beautiful shots by John Kawaja and a great shot by Richard Hart to pick it out. Holy mackerel.
Just tremendous shot making.
It's too bad the games weren't 24 ends, Ted. We'd really see everything in the book, I guess. Well, I'm waiting for the kitchen sink to fly down the sheet of ice because I've seen everything but this week. It's been fantastic. I assume Mike Harris is going to try the same as he did last time with a bit of weight and spill both of them.
I imagine, and Mike can certainly throw that big weight accurately.
Is the line there to get Eddie's yellow rock at the back of the rings, too? It could be an interesting stone here. Mike Harris with the out turn.
Certainly has good weight in this.
He's got the yellow one. Spilled both of them, rolled the shooter, but he left Eddie's shot counting at the back of the 12-foot. So Eddie's going to split the rings here. Try to eliminate the double.
It's pretty near impossible to make a freeze today that they can't split out of the rings unless you have a short rock up there taking part of the rocks away. So, because that was
it was frozen right solid to beautiful.
That was a great
stone.
rock that John had thrown in there.
Well, Mike Harris hasn't missed very many this week, that's for sure. Even in the game he lost, he was just hitting everything in sight, playing every shot that was required of him. Well, Eddie wants to split the rings here now to avoid the double, and there's a chance for a deuce coming back.
Well, certainly 2 points will certainly get Eddie back in this game.
Well, he's got the rings split and at a good angle, right on the tee line. Mike Harris wants to hit and roll right across in front of that other one.
Mike struggled a lot earlier in the week, I thought, but he started coming on about the middle of the week, and he had some tremendous games.
Well, and he's been runner-up in this twice. Why? You have to do some shooting, and I think he'd like nothing better than to prove that he's not going to be the runner-up this year, but to win it. So, a lot of incentive here for Mike Harris. Mike's going to try and get the roll off this. No roll, nose hit, so Eddie has to duplicate that to get his deuce.
Well, certainly Eddie needed a two-end here to get himself back in this contest. Harris had a bad day on Wednesday. He lost both games in Wednesday's draw. So
he lost to John Basin and lost to Russ Howard. Well, here's a stone that Ed needs right here. Right on the nose, 2 points for Eddie Werenich, and this game's a little tighter. So after two ends, it's 4-2. Well, did you think that we'd have a start like that, Ted?
no, that's a surprise. I thought maybe Mike, the way they played that first end, might have got two on Eddie, but never figured to start with a forehand. But Eddie's right back in this game, and he'll try and steal this end and tighten it up. We have a lot more time out here now. We don't have to go from sheet to sheet. So.
Yeah, and you can at least do some concentrating. There are just so many great shots all week on different lanes that you just couldn't help but be distracted by some of the exciting situations and that. But you know, Ted, Ed's been doing this all week. As you say, he's still out there. People were saying he was sort of on or sort of off, but he's still there. And,
yeah.
I think they counted him out this morning at one time, and he ended up nice stone by Neil Harrison, halfway between the rings and the hog line, and Mike Harris is going right in behind it.
Yeah, it looked like he was out of it in the last end, but he had a nice rock in the forefoot, and Ziola peeled the front and got a couple bounces and took his off the took Eddie's off the forefoot to open up the rings, and then Eddie tucked the draw back in on the forefoot, and looked like Kirk's rock he didn't get much bend with that rock, and maybe he was a few feet heavier than he expected. So
here's a great stone by Todd Tsukamoto. Right on the button again. Same thing, 27 seconds. He's 100th of a second different than he threw at the other end. Fantastic shooting. Kirk Ziola's stone, Ted, I had it on the watch, actually slower than Eddie's, but it seemed to get in that track where all the stones had gone down, and it just kept going, unfortunately, on him.
Well, you certainly find if 2 or 3 rocks have been swept down the same path, that you'll get a second quicker. So you have to be awful careful throwing a draw when you get into that situation.
Neil Harrison wanted to come up to that Harris rock and just touch the guard, so he's moved the guard over, left the counter, and Mike Harris says, I want another one in there.
Neil had a nice weight on that rock, too, if he does get around it. I don't know if you were in the Igloo Lounge last night, but that's the most people I've ever seen in the Kingston Curling Club at one time.
I was there for a little while, Ted, but I had a long day yesterday and decided I better get home because we were here for the early game this morning. But, yeah, quite a group. Todd Tsukamoto is sure by the guard. He's got nice-looking weight. Right into the 12-foot, touching the 8-foot, just as he was at.
I know the committee members were certainly happy to see this tiebreaker this afternoon. It keeps the people around the club and likely sell a little bit of pop and some more sandwiches.
I would imagine so. And besides, who wouldn't want to see a game between Mike Harris and Ed Werenich? I mean, if I wasn't working here, I'd be buying tickets. That's for sure. I drove down to Trenton 4 times when they were here.
Through a snowstorm.
Snowstorm couple of nights. Hey, you got to see this. Here's a good-looking rock by Pat Pro. He's on the front one. Moves the front stone, rolls over. Rolls out of play, leaving the Harris counter in the 12-foot on the other side. You know, that's nice. Here you are in a tiebreaker for the Ontario Championships, and both of them can still have a laugh and be competitive. What do you think, Ted? Is this getting awful dangerous for Eddie here?
Well, it's working into some problems. Neil had a miss, and Pat had kind of a partial miss there. So
Drew Macklin's trying to put another rock right back where the previous stone thrown by Todd Tsukamoto was. A little further out from the guard. A little deeper, but right, frozen right up solid, but right beside it. A little deeper than they wanted, Ted.
A little deeper. I don't know if Eddie has a play on that. He'll likely try and freeze it up, move it around a little bit.
I'll tell you one thing. I'm not going to guess what they're going to do because they've thrown some curveballs at us these days. Pat Perot, a lot of experience.
Yes, that shot in the first hand was hard to believe. I'd like to see the replay of that.
I'll be buying this tape, Ted. Just touched the guard ever so slightly on the backside, carries on, and it does freeze up. He hardly touched that. Touched on the backside of the rock.
Actually, I think that worked out better than if he had got around it. He might have drawn a little bit too much.
Thank you, sir. Mark McDonald with a cup of coffee. A very smart idea. Mark, did you see that shot by Mike Harris in the first end? Would you have tried it?
Mark's made a few of
now,
those.
would you have made it? What a shot. And to come right, if you can't enjoy this, then you're not a curler. Oh, having a ball. Mike Harris going to try to get a stone up in front. Just touches the guard. Little opening there. Run the blue straight back. Little discussion coming up here. Ted, it's been like a curling textbook this week. I think I've seen more situations than I can describe. Just the combination of things that you could do. Amazing.
Well, you'll be ready for next year. We'll win 4 or 5 Bonspiels.
No, I think I'll retire after watching this.
You had a pretty good year this year, so.
Yeah, we've done all right. We've had a lot of fun at it, too. That's the main thing. Only I ran up against my old nemesis, Mark McDonald. I'm going to have to break his leg next time, I think. No, it's a lot of fun, Ted, in the game. And if you can't...
Just make sure it doesn't overcurl.
I'm not really sure what they're up to here, Ted. We were talking of driving something back. Now they're going to... Gentle hack weight, he says. So they must be going to try to...
Try and promote that yellow rocks out in front.
Promote it into the other. This should be an interesting stone. John Kawaja's played beautifully all week. Right on it. Looks like he's got a good line on it. Good line. Touched up onto the yellow one. Moved it a little bit. But didn't get the movement off the 2 stones in the blue I think they wanted.
I think they're going to have straw on the ice after that shot.
Yeah.
The way he banged his broom.
No, not really. I guess not. That? No. Like this? Like this.
This game's getting too complicated for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right here. Regular. Keep it soft.
There. So, Ted, I would guess the idea here is to remove this raise opportunity and roll over and cover the other one so they can't play the same shot.
Yeah, Mike's just trying to guard against
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Eddie being able to use one of those yellow rocks, drive it into the 4-foot.
There's the hit. A roll over right behind the other yellow stone.
Perfect.
Perfect. They called for. And then Werenich looking at 2 on the 4-foot. Well, what have we got? Last rock here for John Kawaja. He says we're going to have to hit the blue one straight back.
Boy, there's not a lot there to work with.
My question is, Ted, how is Eddie Werenich going to chew straw when he's using a hammer broom? I mean, he's going to have to change a habit here, isn't he?
I was surprised to see him using that in the house. They must have given him a couple more thousand in his contract.
This is looking more like a skins game every day here with the number of stones in play.
They're afraid of opening up too much and give Mike Harris an opportunity to get rid of those 2 yellow rocks, and he could count a bundle again. What was that?
Is there a hole there? He says no. These guys don't miss a thing. Firm hack weight, whereas, you know, you or I might play hack or board. These guys are good with 7 different ones. beautiful shot. A
Just
raise
incredible shooting.
and called, too. So now Eddie's only looking at one Harris rock on the 4-foot ring, and he's got right on the button and 3 yellow counters around it. I wonder if there's a hole between those 2 guards now, Ted.
I think they can roll them down and make the shots on end. Well, the people are sure getting their money's worth this afternoon. It's going to be hard to top this in the semis and finals.
I had as I say, the man out at Becker's near the school where I work kept asking me every day about it. He said he'd been down. He says for $9, it was the best buy in town. Donut shops, people at Becker's, parents at school, everybody's asking about it. I've had more people come up and say it was really something.
Well, you have to give the papers and the radio stations and TV a hand for all the effort they've put into this last couple of weeks promoting this.
That's for sure, Ted.
You got enough? Whoa! 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 Yes! Yes! Hey! Hard! Hard! Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
Right through the hole and jams it back, moves out a Werenich counter. I think Eddie's still second shot, Ted, with the one that's lined up behind the blue stone on the center line, but nothing is taken for granted here. From the monitor shot, I think, too. I think that yellow rock is his second shot.
They might run out of time before this ends over.
Well, I don't think they're going to panic on the time clocks on these. I tell you, it's quite a game. That's what we expected, though, Ted, when you get these 2 people throwing. Mike Harris can make every one in the book, and Eddie is the master at angles. Playing the port. Again with the out turn.
Looks pretty close.
Through the port. Onto the shot rock and the 4-foot rollover, and Eddie Werenich's lying 2, possibly 3.
So the crowd sure appreciate this.
Well, I'll tell you, Ted, I'm buying a tape of this one.
Well, I thought that Howard Werenich game in Trenton was the best game I'd ever seen, and now I'll have to think that over again.
But now we've got Mike Harris who's going to come down and try to duplicate that. But he's got, well, he can only see much of that Werenich shot. How much can you see, Ted, from your angle? Can you see half a rock there or less?
It's hard to tell from here, but a little less than half, I would imagine.
Well, he could get the wick in off his own, too, but they're indicating they wanted to tick the yellow one out and move over.
Yeah, I imagine he's throwing this pretty quiet.
Never ceases to amaze me. He'll throw the quiet one and can throw the high, hard one, too. Sweepers run it hard. Trying for the port. Through the port. Whoa. Touches it and rolls over, but rolled over just too far, leaving the Eddie Werenich shot at the front of the 4-foot ring counting. Oh. What a
port
great...
looks small to me, but it must look awful big to them the way they're going through it.
I mean, there's a great shot, and he What a stone.
That's a half a rock past Barry. I like
Absolutely nothing is safe around here.
more of this.
Well, Eddie's laying one yellow and looking another way of getting his last rock into the 4-foot. He also doesn't want to set up a double takeout or anything for
Well,
that Mike can use it.
It's nice to see, Ted, that even the best skips have to sit down and come up with some perplexing problems. Man, oh man.
Well, the front ends come in to give their 2 cents worth.
It looks like they're going to try to throw one down that port to stop the same. Mike Harris playing the same shot. Ted, is that your thoughts?
I don't know exactly what he's planned on doing here, but he'd like to get another yellow certainly in as a counter. I don't know if Mike could play the raise on his own rock in the 12-foot there back onto Eddie's.
Yeah, I don't know if he can get enough of it. It's but I wouldn't bet on any shot here not being tried and not being made. Of course, Ed throwing with the out turn here. Said he's a little heavy. There they go. Sweepers are on it. Coming up the center. Starting to move. He's through the port. By the blue guard at the front. Sits right in the hole and touches the 4-foot ring to sit too. Oh, man.
This has got to be one of the great ends, eh? They have more rocks in play than Mark McDonald.
I think they've been borrowing a few off sheet D, too. There are 12 stones in play, Ted, with 1 to come.
What's that? Was that the 5th rock through that port in this end?
It's the 4th or 5th anyway. I've lost count. There's been so many. Wow, this is really something. Mike says he's going to try to promote his blue one with a 4-foot to get his point. You know, Ted, there's a bit of a lesson here too. A great shot in the first end. Mike Harris picks up 4. And a lot of people would have been, totally demoralized. But Ed Werenich went back. You try to get your 2, and you keep coming back at people. You keep trying. Some people would have said, oh, well, and cracked. It's going to be quite a...
Well, the type of game that Eddie skips, he's certainly, you have a chance of nailing him occasionally with a large end. And even in this competition, he's been hit with a few big ends, like the 6, a couple 4s.
Well, in the last game they played, Ed Werenich scored 6 of the ends and stole 2. But Mike Harris scored 2 big ones. He got a 4 and a 3. So seems to be going pretty well to pattern. Mike Harris is going to try to hit the yellow stone in the 8-foot and roll in. Starting to move on him. Did they wait too long? Touched it, but he's rolled back into the 8-foot, and I think Eddie Werenich has stolen 2.
So we have a tie game after 3 ends. I think
could have got on Mike's quite a bit earlier and held it. He had a good-looking rock there.
Yeah, they said he was heavy, so the sweeping stayed off it, but they got more of a cut than they figured. And
I don't know if he's playing the cold draw or he was playing just a cold draw, so that's it's likely why they miscommunicated on it.
so we've got a tie game, Ted. I would assume Eddie Werenich's rock will be short of the rings. That's about my one good guess for the week. Eh? Four after 3 ends.
Well, nobody will be leaving the arena now.
No, but I imagine there'll be a big charge for coffee at the 5th end break. Neil Harrison. The out turn again, a couple feet short of the rings, and the game is on.
Mark, you might as well sit in and give us your 2 cents worth on this end.
Get him in here.
We got a lot more time now that we don't have to give the scores on the other sheets. So I was wondering how your Queen's team did in your playdowns.
Well, Ted, they're still playing today. The Queen's women have qualified for the provincial finals, which is in North Bay next weekend. The men's team is playing this afternoon and another game at 4 o'clock as well. And I think they have to win one of those two to qualify for the finals. I'm quite confident that they will.
Any word on my RMC team?
I forgot to ask. I'm going to phone. I'm going to phone just before the 4 o'clock game, and I'll let you know.
Todd
You can like
Tsukamoto is
coach both teams in North Bay, can't you?
No, you're coming with us.
Todd went back into the 8-foot, and immediately Eddie says sit right on top of it. So we've got another one starting right here.
Line's good now. Line's good.
There's been a few little interesting aspects of this game. One being obvious, the length of time that is being taken on shots, and we'll see whether that comes into play at the end of the game, whether players have to start rushing, if that makes a difference. Also, Richard Hart's heel of his slider shoe came loose, and Joe Jackamack was pressed into service to re-glue. As well, I see the umpire walking out, chasing the front end out of the rings a couple times. So a few little nuances here in this game.
They're not allowed to come into the rings, or is it past the hog line?
I'm not sure of the rule. I think there's a little bit of flex there, but I think the rule is that they're not allowed in the house.
Right. Well, we're back into another end with a lot of rocks.
Yeah, and it's just the seconds that are throwing. Pat Perot going to come down and try to sit on top of that and touch it back slightly.
Well, this arena is sure filling up. I think some of the people from the lounge have decided this is going to be an interesting finish, so...
Either that or they're tired of the color.
Tired of the commentator.
I owed you one, Ted.
And have a nice day, too. Yeah.
Somebody say more rocks in the ring than I usually play.
I invited him in, eh?
I do notice Bill Dickey in the crowd, this year's Canadian senior men's champion, and I'm sure we'll get him and have him here for the 5th end break.
Well,
that would be great. We have a good shot by Drew Macklin. It's a little further out than they want it. Taking time.
Speaking of senior men's, Ted, you becoming eligible soon? Or?
For Masters. I'm over age for seniors.
I don't know about this guy, Ted. We're going to have to let him go out and play a few of these teams, I think, here. Quite a shot by Drew Macklin, rolling over on top of the 4-foot ring, moving the Werenich shot back. And he's shot stone. Eddie has second and third shot back behind the rings. Here's Pat Perot trying to get it out of there.
I don't know if you watched that seniors final game, but it seemed funny the Saskatchewan Skip throwing his last rock, a chance to tie the game, elected not even to come down to the rings and stayed at the other end, let the vice put down the broom, which he missed his last shot. So
Yes, I thought it was very unusual. In fact, the hit weight that they were throwing was quite unusual in the last end. But following the game a bit, he had been relying on his strong hit and stay weight. That's what I guess he chose to use to win the game.
I certainly would have come down and put the broom down for myself and looked over the shot.
Last rock for Drew Macklin here in the fourth end. Well,
there one blue and fighting the button, the large button, and three yellow rocks around the 4 foot.
I think the team with the last rock still has the advantage in these type of ends. They play tic-tac-toe all the way. The shot rocks change every shot. And if you last rock, you could be line 3 after you're finished.
There's just a tremendous shot.
For John Kawaja. The blue ones are gone, and Eddie's sitting 2, possibly 3 on the edge of the 4 foot.
Yeah, I think you're right, Mark, and it's certainly a dangerous way to play it. There's a big chance of giving up big ends anytime you get into messes like this.
Mike Harris wanting Richard Hart to come down and hit that and roll back behind the guard.
I think Eddie has to play this way, though, because he doesn't have control of the game. It's tied, and he doesn't have control, so he has to take the risk. Harris is willing to go along with it because he's weak. Do something, which is not common in these type of situations.
Nice hit, roll over to the right side. He shot Stone and right in front of the Werenich counter at the back of the 4 foot ring.
Yeah, it's just one great shot after another. Reminds me of you playing a Napanee. I watched you one game, Ron.
Now, you've been picking on me all week, Ted.
Well, you won the Napanee, Spiel.
Yeah,
so
we
had
had
to
a lot
play
of fun
well.
up there. We played well.
And they feed you well.
Yeah, there's no question about that, always. We also had a lot of people from Napanee volunteering to come down and work on this, which is very, very kind. I've seen Neil Lambert down for the whole tournament and others. Hugh Sharp was out here working on the ice, so people from all over volunteering to help out.
There was no good commentators up that way, was there?
Just for that, Ted, we're using hair brooms next year. Eddie Werenich wanting to remove this blue stone. John Kawaja going after the shot stone here. He's hit it, but he's left the blue counter shot.
I don't know what he called there. Did he overthrow that rock a bit, or?
I think he was calling the hit on the nose.
The nose, I think.
Stay right in front of it. It wasn't too far off. The sweeper sort of backed off, sort of give it the impression that it was a miss, but it wasn't.
Well, John sure made some tremendous shots in this game. He's held Eddie in a few times and got him out of a bit of a jam.
You know, I think you're right, Ted. We're sure using a lot of time in the first 4 or 5 ends. Indications are they're going to try to remove that Werenich stone and roll over into the 4 foot. one thing we should note, Ted, is Richard Hart's the only other lefty in the tournament, if you notice.
And who was the other left-hander?
Mr. McCoppin.
Well, that's only appropriate since we had a left-hander at the head of the committee, so. Indication here trying to remove that and roll over into the 4-foot behind cover. Let's see what happens. Right through the port and sit there.
There's no comment on that shot because we're speechless.
Now what's going to come on the next one is it looks like I think Eddie still has second shot at the back, doesn't he, Ted? He's lying one at the moment.
I can't tell from here the situation. Eddie's trying to hit, I guess, and roll into the 4.
It looks like Harris is line 2, and Werenich has a third shot back 8.
Eddie going after the stone through the port, rolls over. The cover. Harris is still shot, but it sure makes a big difference.
Shot, really.
So. Yeah, there were an awful lot of blue stones starting to cluster in there.
I was just looking at the media bench. I only see 2 reporters out for this game. Is there something bigger going on in town, or are they having a rest this afternoon?
Well, they may have caught him off guard, too.
Well, Mark, I suppose the committee are pleased with having this tiebreaker. Keeps the people around the club and likely buying lunches and the odd drink.
Oh, I think so, and it keeps the rhythm of the whole week going throughout the whole day. And people don't have a chance to go home and put their feet up. They have to be involved in curling, and I think that's great.
Ted, I can't see from my angle. Are they trying to get rid of Eddie Stone, or?
I imagine they'd like to move it back out of there so Eddie doesn't have anything to work with.
Oh, now we're try it on.
I think they're just throwing the guard up, are they?
I think it's a corner freeze on the yellow one at the top of the 4. I think they're still trying to set up a deuce. Can accomplish it by guarding one of their back 4 and taking away a chance at a double raise or a tackle.
Come on, good. Come on. You gotta go. Hard. Good line. Wait all day. No, wait all day. Don't touch it. Just breathe. Move.
Right on it.
They just lay them in there so nicely. Yeah, Mike, after throwing a couple high hard ones and come right back with a freeze. It's amazing how well they can change. The old years ago, I remember the old curlers. You know, you'd remember this, Ron. Saying us long sliders couldn't draw. Remember that?
You're getting worse at picking on me than Joe is. Now that's not fair. Of course, I haven't seen you do a long slide yet, Ted. So.
But that's true. The old fellas used to slide or throw it right from the hack. Their foot wouldn't leave the hack.
Wouldn't leave the hack. They said they couldn't
We'd
draw.
slide out a ways. And I think if we got to the front ring in those days, we were long sliders. But they'd say you're good hitters, but you couldn't draw.
I think Eddie is going to probably play it cautious here and just try to prevent Mike Harris from getting a deuce. I think they'd be happy with top four. To get it in for shot, I think is a little bit too risky, and it allows Mike to go for his deuce. So I'd be surprised if they went for shot on this rock. Pretty precise when you're playing a guard in the top four.
So wouldn't it be a better idea to play the out-turn guard on that rock Mike just threw in there?
Well, I think
looks like it's curling more than they thought, guys. It's on the yellow rock at the front.
He's on this.
Touched it up.
I think that's exactly what he had in mind.
No, he had iced out the edge of the 8-foot, and I can't believe that it would have curled that much for that called shot. I assume the come around was the call, and it either curled early or was a little bit late.
Maybe Eddie
it was his
could have started the intern.
Just like everybody else?
Well, sometimes you're forced into playing that turn.
Well, they're sure looking at it down there. They're trying to see if they can, if somehow they can get a deuce out of this thing.
Well, it'd sure be interesting
Can they
look at the time clocks, wouldn't it?
Can they promote that blue one without the danger of, or are they just going to try the cold draw?
Well, it looks like they can play the hit back on with his blue and get rid of the yellow rock to count 2. I think they might be looking at whether they can count 3 off that or not.
Yes, Ted, at the 5th end break, I'll go down and ask the chief official if he'll release the amount of time left for the second half of the game. I'm not sure whether he will, but you can ask. I think this is an ankle tap. Remove the
Yellowstone.
Yellow, yeah. Move it through the 4-foot.
Got a shot at it. Looks good.
Might have overthrown that rock a bit. It didn't seem to move much there.
I thought they were sweeping it because it was going to start to move, but I think they were afraid of tapping just the outside and pushing him in for shot.
To hold it straight so they would.
So after
they wouldn't tap it in for shot rock.
I think that might turn out to be a big miss by Mike Harris. Only a 1 point in this style of game. I think Eddie's going to probably go all out for a 2 here and take control.
So after 4 ends, it's with a score of 1. It's 5-4 for Mike Harris over Eddie Werenich.
You'll likely see Mike have his lead throw it on the 4-foot to start this. No, he's going back out in front. I was watching a lot of Russ Howard's games, and once he felt control of the game by being up a point, he throws them right on the 4-foot. If the other skip elects to throw the corner guard, he'll either cover the one in the 4-foot or block off the use of the corner guard.
Well, Todd Tsukamoto's played a great game so far, Ted. I don't think he's missed a shot yet. Put them exactly where they wanted them, and Neil Harrison's had a good game as well. But Todd Tsukamoto is really playing. And Ed's going right in behind it. Here we go. 28 seconds, Ted, and 4 seconds to the line.
Likely for the rest of the year at the Royal Kingston Curling Club, you'll see a lot of rocks in play by the skips now.
Be interesting to see the first week of play after people get back after watching this. Then you begin to realize just how good these people are when you don't make them. Here's Todd Tsukamoto trying to duplicate that shot, come right down to it. Right there, great stones.
I was saying earlier, Mark, that Shorty could have saved a lot of paint by just painting the four-foot circles instead of using the blue paint, doing the outer rings.
Here's Neil Harrison again.
Looks like if you're not in the 4-foot, you're not going to score, especially this game.
Coming right down the top of the blue one. And sitting right there.
The only real disadvantage I see in this rule is you see an awful lot of ends set up the same way. There isn't a lot of variety.
That's right. I think they'll probably, after a few years, try to experiment with other modified rule changes. One thing that's been talked about is the two-point button rule. That could prove to be interesting if it was experimented with. You might see some very clear ends, and then the skip just chooses to try to throw one to the button for its two-point rather than set up a lot to get a multiple end.
Just by the... Now the fun
Similar
begins.
to the three-point basket in
Right.
basketball.
I think we have to be careful, though, Mark. You know, you can start to come with so many legislated rules and changes that and the one thing, though, that I really feel we have to do is, no matter where we're playing, the rules have to be the same. You know, you're using a 4-rock rule in the Worlds, a 3-rock rule in Canada. We have to have I really feel the same set of rules that people are playing by. Rock by Pat Perot.
Good places to put your first rock, either on the 4-foot or short of the rings.
What a double! Line three.
I guess Eddie's
Now, if you're
not
going to
ready
tell me that looks like my shots, Ted, you're crazy. What a play. Eddie's line 3, and we're off and running.
I guess Eddie's not ready to go home yet.
Well, his comment this morning, apparently after one of the games, he said he was too old, but I don't really think so.
That one's worse for us.
Well, he has $90,000 in his bank account this year, so he can rest a bit.
Another shot for Drew Macklin here.
Yep, 3! Hooray!
I wouldn't be surprised.
Drove it
It was
back.
close.
It was
He
close.
feathers that
Just
one.
feathers it, yeah.
Eddie said he wants to split the rings. I wonder here, Ted, the way they're playing, and though that leaves the hit and roll off that one on the 4-foot, and they've been making those. Good stone, back where they wanted it. Can't roll in on it. Great stone, exactly what was called for.
That's the first end that Eddie's really had full control of.
Well, here's just the shot, though. Richard Hart being asked to hit off that one. Ted and roll in behind it.
We already are.
Well, the crowd is sure enjoying the comments.
It's nice to be able to hear them with the single game going on.
Get on the nose and try to stay right there.
Yes, it's interesting listening to Mike Harris' team. They tell it like it is and don't worry about offending each other's comment about strategy or shot making. They just trying to do what's best for the team.
Well, Mike's a pretty relaxed player out there.
Never. Never. Step.
That was
almost
close
again,
to a
eh?
spectacular triple.
They don't spare the horses. Ed Werenich going right in behind it. Let's try and get a third one in here. Mark, your prediction that one may have been the last shot may have been costly. Looks like you're a member of the Psychic Friends Network or something. John Kawaja.
I don't know if you've noticed, but Eddie likes to work the outturn side coming this way and the outturn side
going that way. No kidding, eh? Behind the guard, to the 4-foot ring, to the button, and buried. Oh.
John's just had a tremendous game so far. I don't think I've seen a miss out of him, and made some bonus shots on top of that.
Just been spectacular. And here's a gentleman who hasn't played that badly either, Richard Hart.
I think if Richard can freeze to that, it might cancel those out to those other counters. John may have liked that probably top 8 foot. But buried. Tough to freeze.
Wait on. Just freeze. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Whoa. Right. Whoa. Sit.
Nice shot by Richard Hart. Didn't quite line up with exactly the weight they were asking for.
Does bring the play to the 4-foot though, and that's what Mike Harris needs right at the moment.
Yeah, it tightens up the rings. So.
Ted, is there enough room there for him to touch that back and roll over in front of the other one?
I imagine John can push this back maybe into the 8-foot. Likely rub his own.
Too close to the guard.
He's touched the guard. It opens it up. Whole end changes.
I think Mike's going to try to get rid of some yellow.
Well, that's the first miss I've seen John Kawaja have in this game.
And it sure wasn't by much either, but enough.
I see the official coming out, going to push Todd out of the house.
Too much going on.
Mean.
Yeah, especially when they got a walkie-talkie. Just so many interesting plays in this game so far, Ted.
Oh, there used to be only one skip on the team. It's still in the rule book.
It is, eh?
Yeah, 6.2 or something. The skip should have exclusive direction of the game.
That rule was written in 1820. 1832 are the first official rules of curling. You remember that, eh, Ron?
That's it, Ted. The gloves are off. I remember it because I think you wrote it, wasn't it?
You know, in the first rules of curling, the sweepers could only sweep from the far hog line into the rings.
That's right.
And the only person that could sweep the length of the ice was the skip. He'd throw his rock and sweep it.
There was also an article I read once, Ted, where a team from Brantford, Ontario beat a team from Paris, Ontario by bouncing them off the boards. When they first put in dividers, it was legal. So you can have some fun.
Clean only. Clean. Clean. Yep. Clean only. Line only. Whoa, just clean. Let it die. Clean. Whoa. Clean only. Whoa. Clean. Whoa. Right up. Whoa. Right up. Let it die.
An interesting play here, Mark. Ted, your comments on that shot. Throwing a guard up on their blue one.
I think he's forcing Ed Werenich to his intern.
Ted,
He's
can
likely
you...
played Eddie before, and
No, just speaking with your age and experience, can you tell me the difference between playing with stones and irons?
between which?
Well, I thought
Playing
you
with-
may have
or playing
noticed
with-
the change when they went from irons to stones there. You know?
I know the difference in the weight of them.
This has been really something, Ted. The humor out here, the fun, and the competition is just great. So what's Eddie up to here?
I think he can come around that and move it off the forefoot, and I don't know whether he can lie 4, but he might be able to lie 3. He may be setting up just with the corner freeze.
Must be close. John's watching.
You're by the guard. And that blue one's moved over. He rolled out, but the blue one's now open.
Oh, it's a pretty good shot. There wasn't a lot of space there to get around that.
Boy, another inch or so, Ted, and he'd have moved it right through him and sitting a bundle.
Who said Eddie couldn't throw an intern?
We didn't say he couldn't, we said he didn't like to.
He made a great shot in the 9th end against Kirk Ziola this morning with an intern to count his deuce.
It was a raise into the forefoot. Beautiful stone.
He made a great shot in the Skins game to beat Howard, throwing an intern with a 15-foot raise back takeout.
Well, the money's on the line, so, and it's one game. Mike Harris trying to remove the shot on the forefoot. And do what, Ted? Roll over, roll behind, spread them out, what?
Well, he'd likely like to come down on top of this, play the freeze, hold maybe Eddie to 1. If I see Bill Dickey in the crowd, and maybe Mark can ask Bill to come up for a few minutes, have a talk with us. Bill Dickey won the Canadian Senior Championship this year, and
There's the shot, moved it back, and Harris is lying 1. I'm not sure if he's lying 2, Ted, but it looks like it. Ed says he's going to come in off the yellow one, hit the blue one, go out and get both of them.
that looks like a good call, because that rock can back up if
Yeah.
there's the right action on it.
I tell you, with these guys, the way they're throwing, it'll get it. Look out, Ted. We're going to have a good one coming here. I don't think this will be a hack weight shot, Ted. hollering for sweeping. All the way. They've got a crack at it. Look at that shot. Oh, man, what a stone. The 2 for Eddie Werenich. And after the 5th in break.
Come home with the first place honor is really a great thrill for us. Very happy about it.
You're getting better with age there, Bill.
I think it's about time I retired, Ted.
Well, we'll likely see you back next year fighting it out.
Well, it's always fun, and we meet so many good guys. I think I enjoy it more every year, really, and particularly in terms of the people you play against, the experience you have there.
Yeah, you meet some great friends. They're great people, and you have some great trips, too. That trip to Whitehorse must have been a great experience.
Oh, tremendous, really. You really don't have to, you don't want to come home without a winning record, but really everybody that goes to those things is a winner, and it's a tremendous experience.
Ted, we're getting right back into it again.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Bill. It's great talking to you.
Well, thank you.
And wish your team congratulations on our behalf.
Thank you, I certainly will.
Thanks, Bill. Much appreciated. Ted, we're right back into it here again. We've got a Werenich rock on the 4-foot and the guard in front. Mike Harris is after Drew Macklin to remove it. Double coming. How did we guess, eh?
Called it.
One Werenich counter left in the corner of the 12-foot.
We might have to get Marilyn Bedeau back up here. Get some excitement going again, eh?
Jeez, I tell you.
She was great. We sure enjoyed that.
Well, we've had an awful lot of interesting people, Ted, able to drop up and give us their comments and expertise. I would hope we can get Allison Goring up as well, and there's some other people around, and have a chat with them. Now what? So we're playing on the center guard here, Ted, and they want to hit and stay. What he indicated. The hit and the roll over. Ed going right in behind it.
I think Eddie's got the game turned around a bit.
Well, after a 4 in the first end, I think people thought, uh-oh, but again, look, you know, somebody's come back, you go for your deuce, you keep going. You're working hard to get this one by the guard, but it's not going to go. It's going to touch and roll over the center.
I think we put a jinx on some of these players. That's the second rub John Quadge has had since we said he was curling.
He's curling well, yeah.
But he was very close on
well,
that. You know.
I'll tell you, Ted, if doing that makes me curl as well as those, you can jinx me anytime you want to. Well, Mike Harris gets the chance now to go in behind, see if he can duck one. And look at the guard they're ducking behind, Ted. It's only about 8 inches off the rings there.
Yeah, they'll come around the ashtray if it was sitting at the...
So. They're by the guard. Taking it back. Oh, that powerful sweeping by Ed Werenich pulls the stone back into the 12-foot rings.
Yeah, we just had a check on how they were for time, and Mark checked it out. They're running pretty close to what's expected. Harris is running about 3 minutes slow of half what they should have at halftime, and
by the guard and frozen right to the one at the back.
Eddie's about 1 minute over. So they'll have to pick it up a little bit in this end, or they're going to. It's going to be a bit of a struggle playing.
Well, when you think though, Ted, with all the discussions they did, that's not too bad in the over. You know, they're pretty quick making decisions on
looked like
most ends.
They checked the clock, so they speeded up play a little bit in this end, I think, and.
This one looks like it's out a little further, Ted. Oh, just touching the 12-foot. Well, we've got Joe Jakomek up joining us now, and I'm afraid I'm under the gun here because Ted's been picking on me all game, and I think I'm in trouble. But Joe, your comments on the week in the Tankard here and all that's gone on, we would appreciate them.
Well, as you know, we're pretty pleased about the way things have gone, and we couldn't have asked for a better field. And I'm sure that Lefty can tell you that he's really, really pleased about the way things have gone, as well as all the volunteers. And I think the players are pretty pleased too about the way things have gone.
You must be getting pretty tired after all the work that's gone into this. That bar last night looked like you were pretty busy there.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we've got a lot of good volunteers. Without the volunteers that we had there last night, and even people that were not scheduled to work the bar for us, who were pitching in behind the scenes there and filling up fridges, and without those kinds of people to give us that kind of help, we'd never get through that kind of an evening.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Joe, I'm going to miss being able to buy a sandwich and a cup and soup down there. They may have to keep that up.
But they're probably pretty happy too, and eating all the desserts that they've got over there.
Yeah, Rich seems to have sampled. Joe, your comment on the game so far, I mean, I've run out of them just for the shot making. It's
difficult to say too much when you watch shots like these fellows are pulling off all the time. The kind of shots that you've just been able to make them yourself. But I think Harris has got his work cut out for him. He's playing the master of the junk game, and he's the guy that invented this kind of a game, and without question he's going to have his hands full in trying to beat Eddie.
Yeah, it sure looks like Eddie's got the game turned around now. That great shot Mike had made in the first end, it looked like curtains for Eddie, but Eddie's worked his way back into control of this game, and he's got this end under control right now.
Ted, is he playing the Rays on his bluestone or coming through the port? I didn't see the indication.
Looks like he must play the Rays. I don't know if the port's large enough there.
I don't think there's any kind of a port that he can get through right now. But, even though Eddie's down, 4-0 after that first inning, you just never count that kind of a player out of the game.
No, especially when it's one game and the money's on the line. If you're going to beat him, you better have a big hammer.
Big hammer, and you better get that kind of an ending with the 8th inning instead of the first inning.
There it is. Oh, a slight one. Just a slight one.
He was awful close.
Yeah, they were going for that. Well, he gets second shot out of it anyway, but...
I'm sure it's nice to watch these fellas curl. The rocks seem to be curling like the way they want them to curl. Good swing on them, and the ice is really good. So I think everybody should be complimented on the way they've done a job out here in the ice. It's really good.
Yeah, and it's been consistent all week, Joe. Every time I put the watch on it, it's been about the same. Very little difference. Shorty made a change to a little heavier pebble after the one afternoon where they had the trouble with the odd pick. The guy saying there hasn't been a problem since then.
I think guess part of the early problem on the outside sheet was that they were getting a bit of material coming down from the walkway, so it was kind of difficult to stop it. They were changing it each night, but that stopped, I guess, since about Wednesday night, so they shouldn't. That problem was ceased right there.
Well, Joe, a lot of compliments to you. You've worked hard on this thing under some kind of rough circumstances. The guys have accused me of causing your illness. I don't lay any credit to that.
I can see why.
But nice to see you back
You
in
can
full form.
you can expect big things out of your vice next year, because he's been watching how all the good vices play, and he's got it all figured out now.
I just hope he's got all those good shots in his back pocket now.
We're going to follow the Ted Brown rules of curling.
Instead of just winning 2 Bondsfields, you're going to win 4 or 5 next year.
No, it's always nice, but the guys did play well in those ones that we did win, and it was nice to have that kind of support behind you, in front of you.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You can't enjoy this game. It's time to quit. That's for sure. I just can't get over here are 2 guys playing for the Ontario Championship, but they're still having a good time. The humor back and forth. They're doing everything in the world to throw great shots at each other. It's just tremendous to watch.
That's for sure. You ended up with probably the top 4 teams in the.
Eddie's trying to go through that same port that's just a little bit wide than others.
Seems to swing at the end a little bit more than it does at the start.
Get a little deep dive.
Yeah, I think the 4 teams left in are the 4 teams that people predicted before the.
Without question, and any one of them can beat each other at any given moment, and I think we're in for some real good curling, as you can see in this game, and with the semifinal to come in the final, there should be some great shot making.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to top this one, because we've seen some beauties out here.
That's for sure.
I'll tell you, whoever gets out of this has earned it.
Well, I guess Ontario has always been known as a mini Briar anyway, with some of the teams they've sent out, so it's a good indication of what we're seeing here right now.
Yeah, we've shown well in the Briars for the last 10 years, likely.
For sure.
Well, a good indication. Here's Mike Harris, a tremendous rink, and they've been a runner-up twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does he have to do?
It's missing that little finishing kick at the end to get there.
They're still a young rink.
Coming here. Here he comes back. He's okay. Beat that one.
Well, the crowd's sure enjoying it.
A double raise back take to get 1.
They're both getting a big charge out of both skips.
Well, I still say, Ted, I'm buying a copy of this tape. Great point for Mike Harrison. After 6 ends, it's tied 6-6.
You can study that all summer, and you'll have all the angles down.
No, I'm not studying it. I'm going to hide it. I'm afraid Joe's going to get one and expect me to do some of this. Of course, the fellows have said we'll all chip in and buy Joe a copy too, so have fun. No, it's just been tremendous to watch. I can't believe the shot making. And in some cases, like that one that Eddie has played, as I said, how many people would actually see that shot being there? It's just great.
A little more momentum. They could have got 4 on that end, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that one just a slight bit thinner. He's going to get a little more roll out of it and push it over far enough for 4.
Do you know what the attendance is up to this date, Joe?
I'm not sure what it is right now, but as of Wednesday night, it was somewhere in the 13,000 range, so it looks pretty good for maybe 20,000. We're sure hoping we get there anyway.
That's just great.
Ed Werenich, Ted going right behind it again.
Well, certainly great in there last night. I don't think I've ever seen that many people in the Kingston Curling Club before.
It's nice to have a lounge that large all the time, but
yeah. It's hard to curl on those boards.
It's like everybody keeps on saying we have to throw board weight now.
Yeah. And you guys accused me of saying when they were putting them down they had a board meeting, and you got mad at my joke. Here's Todd Sukum, who's played extremely well. He's trying to duplicate that shot and come right up.
Well, I saw a lot of old members that I hadn't seen in many years that came in for that reunion last night.
Right by the guard, right up to the faces.
For sure, and some
Some
of them are even carrying some of their old Kingston Curling Club name tags with them that they purchased many, many years ago.
Right.
Yeah, and some of them had come from quite a distance too, Ted. Jewel Cooney, I noted in town, and other people. Just great to see everybody.
It's sure nice to see George Bennington come all the way back to Florida to the cold to throw the opening stone.
Yeah.
And the way he threw it, somebody's going to hire him.
I think he sure got a kick out of that. Well, we're back into another end full of rocks, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Got a hole there?
It's the hole there. I have a. If it isn't, it soon will be.
The crowds can't say this is boring.
No. Anybody that can't enjoy this game,
Sure getting their money's worth today.
yeah.
Let me come around. I like this. Okay.
They're going to try to come around and get another blue stone in play here. Drew Macklin.
That little for line. Yep. Great. Hi, 3. Whoa.
Move it back. I hate to say it, but I hope Grant saw that. That was the second making that shot. I mean, we used to see that at the end of the end. Well, the port's there now, Ted, and it looks like Eddie's going to go right through it, too.
Well, they can make the double and lay 2 yellows.
Any bets against the double here?
No.
Pat Perot got another shot coming down here.
He's on the front, but
That shot seemed to move, Ted. Do you think they were a little light on it?
it was a little maybe quieter than Eddie expected, or might be getting a little bit more movement out there now. I know that Quadja feathered on the last couple ends.
Well, Mike Harris wants a guard up here quickly.
Yeah, if Pat makes that shot, it certainly puts a lot of pressure on Mike Harris.
Tight. Clean it. A little bit early if you can, yeah. Okay, move. Get over, Carl. Just to the line. Just across the line. Whoa, never. Whoa. Attaboy, good shot.
Good-looking shot.
A bit of an opening, right?
Just off the nose. Normal? Yeah.
Trying to remove the top guard. Oh.
That's a bit of an unfortunate break. Pat threw a pretty good rock there.
At least 3 Harris counters in the rings, and
That first miss of Pat's was a key miss. This type of game, that one miss sure changed.
yeah. Fortunately,
Changes
Eddie's got
control.
last rock here, but it looks like he's going to, from the end now, he may have to throw a real good one. But I'm not going to predict anything. We've seen these ends change around so fast.
Double will still be here. You won't play the double
what a comment. Mike Harris says that, well, we don't want to let him, if he hits the double, he'll end up here. And he says he won't play the double, and turns right around and looks at Ed, you know. Sure he won't. I tell you, this has to be one of the most enjoyable sports in the world.
Kind of a time you'd like to have Mike on both skips.
Yeah. Ted, I really think they're starting to move a bit on them.
I think Richard might have turned that. It looked like
He won't play the double. The question is, which double are they going to play the way they've been shooting?
I think Eddie'd like to get the hit and roll behind the corner. Going to get something set up for his 2-in.
No, got to come off that center line a little. Bit of movement here. There it goes. I'm not sure, Ted, which stone is shot. I think the one at the back of the 12-foot is shot for Harris, is it not?
Yeah, it looks like that from this point.
Joe, thanks very much for coming up and joining us. And again, thanks for all your efforts and the gang at the club. It's been tremendous. I've just been impressed by all the work that people have done by volunteers and everybody. It's just incredible.
Sure, it's a great show. 255 great volunteers and
yeah, you're not kidding there. Take care, Joe. A hit and a roll, Ted, and move it through the rings to sit 3 well spaced. Ed wants to freeze up to the back one to see if we can something started. I think
Eddie's happy he has last rock in this end.
Yeah, unfortunately, they've started to get spread out a bit, so at least there's an opening to play it. I think what impresses me, Ted, is how quickly they make their mind up, and are able to call these great stones. Another great shot by John Kawaja, right up in front of the stone at the back, getting by the guard so close.
John's voice is getting a little squeaky there.
I don't think he wants to win this game at all, eh?
Russ Howard problem.
They're all in it, so really trying so hard. Neil Harrison looks a little tired out there. Noticed on the line sweeping. They're
wonder how many
taking it
rocks
easy.
Neil swept in the last 10 or 15 years.
I don't know, but an awful pile of them.
He's been up and down that ice a few times.
The first shot for Mike Harris here. He's trying to get in at that Werenich stone. Just off the back of the 4-foot. Jumped on it now. In by the front guy, touches Eddie out of the rings and 6-4.
Just a real nice, delicate touch on that rock. Just enough weight to push it back, go to the rings.
Well, Ted, does Ed want to freeze right up to this shot now, or does he want to roll off it?
I think he'd like to freeze me, even if he moves it a few inches, but he has to lay shot. That's the important thing, is to be laying shot. Because if he throws it a shade short. Mike could just put a cover on this rock.
I wonder if you're Russ Howard and Wayne Middaugh. Are you watching this game, or are you sort of sitting back, relaxing, and not watching it?
I imagine they're back in their room. Wayne's getting ready for, some rest for tonight.
Nice shot for Eddie. Moved it back. He's sitting shot stone, but there's enough separation, Ted, that I'm sure they can move it out of there.
Well, he threw it soft enough that he has a check his draw weight, because he definitely have to throw a draw on his next shot, or a soft tap shot.
Well, Mike Harris definitely doesn't want to leave Eddie's second shot with this one.
I think Mike would likely like to make a little bit of a roll to the right-hand side. Take away any pocket.
Nice shot. Removes the Yellowstone, and Mike Harris is sitting 4, so Ed Werenich basically has to duplicate that shot to count 1. Little pressure, Ted, when you're throwing at 4 blue ones.
Eddie's throwing the shot he likes, the out-turn, push back, and I have a lot of confidence that he would make this type of shot. He just made it on his first one. But the Harris rink, if Eddie makes it, they've done their job. They've kept him to 1. Try and get their deuce in the next hand.
I tell you, even the ones here can be just absolutely incredibly exciting.
Oh, there's another end of great shot making. He must be pretty close. Sweepers are just working it gently, and
taps it back, sits on the edge of the button, and a point for Eddie Werenich. Pressure shot against 4. So after 7 ends of play, Ed Werenich up 7-6 over Mike Harris of Tam Heather. And Ted, just an absolutely exciting curling match. I've seen few to rival it.
Yes, these two teams have certainly opened up the eyes of a lot of curlers and how great shot making can really be.
And on top of that, we aren't even in the semifinals yet.
That's right. There's lots of curling left.
Yeah. So, Ted, do you pull it in the rings now if you're Eddie Werenich, or play the short one?
Eddie, I imagine 8th end, likely try and throw it short. He'd like a steal here to get last rock advantage on the even ends.
Although with the free guards one, have we sort of changed the steal idea, like throw yours on the 4-foot, let the other guy throw one out and try to guard it?
Yes, but I see that Eddie's coming right to the 4-foot, and likely see Mike Harris throw up a short corner guard.
I watched Mike Harris the other night playing Wayne Middaugh, and some situations like that when they threw the guard to the other side, and Wayne Middaugh guarded the one on the 4-foot. They were able to steal on Mike Harris a couple of times. So it's an interesting play. He's going much wider though than he did then. He's going out the side. The one thing I have noticed, though, Ted, there's not much play to the corners anymore.
I think Eddie will cover this rock in the 4-foot. I think he feels if a steal right now would really give him an advantage.
Well, we're getting near the end of the game. It would give him a 2-point lead and the even ends. So
It was sure nice to score in the 8th end.
That rock isn't really coming over. It's there, but the rock in the 4-foot is exposed.
Well, it's a danger rock out there, so Mike will move it, try and get a roll.
We're looking for the double here, too?
He'd take the double, but I think he would like to get the hit and roll more than the double. That could set up his deuce for him. Get one in behind the corner.
They're going to have to go to get the roll here. But they got the double and moved the one off the 4-foot.
Eddie will likely move that rock off. It's too close to the rings to. It's a danger rock for him. So if he can nose it, that'd be great.
We saw that a couple ends ago where they exchanged a couple there to avoid the other person being able to raise.
Whoa! Yes! Whoa! Whoa!
Ooh, almost a jam.
I don't know if Pat has turned a couple of those interns lately. He missed an intern in the 7th end here, which was a costly miss.
There's a pretty quiet weight on that one. Well, Mike Harris actually gets a chance to draw to the outside. I think this is the first draw to the corner, sort of, Ted, we've seen all day.
That's right. Well, if Pat could have hit that one on the nose, Mike would have been forced to play it or play around into the 4-foot. So the miss really set up this.
The crowd applauding Eddie's powerful sweeping to take that stone through the rings.
Eddie's elected to take the corner guard away, so this hand's going to be one of the hands we're going to see very few rocks in play.
Maybe. Yeah, they clean this one up. Well, this may get them back on time, too, Ted. We haven't had a clean, quiet end yet. And look at Mike Harris. There's a rock almost on the boards, and they're going to take advantage and try to hide behind it. Nothing is wasted.
I think you'll see Mike play for the blank end.
And Drew Macklin trying to get one right over on just hanging on the edge of the rings.
They sure take advantage of anything.
Anything at all. As you said, they draw around the ashtray. I think they just did. Right over in the corner. Make it difficult. Here's John Kawaja's first rock. Going right after it. He's got a piece of it and rolls out of the rings.
Well, John doesn't miss too many hit shots. If he can see half a rock, I'm sure if I want somebody throwing the last rock to remove it, go to the briar, John would be one of my choices.
But Richard Hart has to put it right back. They're not letting up. Yeah, he sure would be. And he's one of the people I've seen that can throw the heavy rock extremely accurately.
Well, he's got great leg drive.
Look at this draw. Look at this draw, hanging right on the edge. And this time they've got some cover.
That's not fair.
They aren't fooling. John Kawaja after it again. We saw a shot like this last night from Russ Howard where they had to get one out here and they just caught the guard and ended up getting a 2 out of it. So you don't take something for granted. They're going right back again. Richard Hart has to put it back.
There's sure not much rings to work with on this type of shot, and they've made two beauties. Looks like he's pretty close again.
He's got room.
I don't know if you'd call that Yellow Rock a corner guard or what. But they're sure using it as
They're
one.
sure using it. I hope there's no slivers hanging out of the dividers, because there'll be a rock behind it so fast. Ed Werenich having to go after a rock at the back of the 12. A hit on it and a roll in the back of the rings. Stoned by Eddie Werenich.
Well, the winner of this game will not have a lot of time to rest between games. The semifinal game starts at 6:30.
Yeah, it's already quarter after 4, so.
Practice time at 6, so chance for a bowl of soup and back on the ice.
Bowl of soup and get going. I see Mike Harris. It looks like he's going to remove this. Ted, I don't think he wants to play the freeze, because I think he'd like to try to possibly blank and get 2.
Yeah, I think that's what he's thinking right now. You play the freeze, you play the freeze, that takes away the chance for a blank end. Just play it out and go to the 9th. He'd likely like to maybe blank 9 too.
Yeah, and come home with the hammer.
But I'm sure that they'll go for their deuce first. If it doesn't work out and they have a chance for the blank, they'll play it that way.
This is actually the first blank we've seen in the game possibility even. You see, to blank it, you'd have to remove 6 or 7 shots.
Well, that's for sure.
Well, they'll get him back on time too, Ted. It's been a pretty quick end. There's Eddie with the out turn. A hit and a rollout.
Well, that makes the blank end simple.
Yeah.
Even you and I could likely.
Geez, I might even hit the end of the rink with this one.
As long as you
and
don't
look at this. They just threw her down and don't even bother throwing it. So we have a blank end in 8. It's still 7-6 for Ed Werenich of Avonlea over Mike Harris of Tam Heather after 8 ends. And Ted, if you're Eddie, do you pull it in now or do you play the short one?
I imagine Eddie will come back in the 4, but he's proved me wrong again. So he played into the 4-foot the last end. I guess he's trying to protect against the blank end. So you go up short. Because I imagine he figures if he pulls it into the 4-foot, Mike will maybe play the game for the blank end. So you need the protection up there to force the other skip to take one.
Whatever, we're going to come home with an exciting finish. And Mike Harris is going right in behind it.
I've seen Allison Goring here this afternoon, and possibly tonight we can get her on and have a chat with her. She won the Ontario ladies this year to represent Ontario in Scots, which we played in Calgary.
Todd Tsukamoto coming around the guard again. He's done it so many times, but just touches this time. Over. I thought it was by part way down. Ted, I really do think we're getting a little more movement than we did at the start of the game.
Sure seems to be. We've had some rubs that we didn't have earlier in the game, so
I wonder if we're getting a little difference with only one team out there as opposed to 5. Could it be a little cooler on the ice and things? I have to talk to Shorty between games. Ed asking Neil Harrison to come right in behind the guard.
this is the interesting thing with this game. It doesn't matter how many years you've played it. There's always 2 or 3 different ways you can play an end, and even people like Eddie asked in his lead, what do you think?
So many options, and there's never a game the same.
I think Eddie's seen every possible situation, but he's still checks with Neil on occasion to see what he likes.
This is interesting, Ted, because if you go for the double, hitting between the 2 stones there, you most likely will drive that yellow one onto the blue one.
That's right, and possibly put it into the 4-foot.
So he's Mike Harris indicating he hit it on the outside. Here's Todd Tsukamoto with some weight this time. Takes out the high guard and rolls off. Eddie indicating he'd like to take the blue rock off and roll over to the center.
Well, Eddie feels it's a bit of a danger rock there. Mike could tap it back and set up his deuce. So if he can hit and control the center line, that's the big thing in this game.
That's a rock you could play a split off of.
And that's right, you could split it in. So
he hit it on the nose and stayed. He indicated he wanted to roll, but didn't quite get it. Mike Harris wants to get rid of both stones.
The advantage of having a short rock out there, when Eddie comes to throw his last one, he can play it around and maybe force Mike to take the point, and that's the reason why Eddie's playing this end the way he has called it.
Drew Macklin with some good weight. Just catches the one guard on the edge, doesn't get enough for the double. Imagine Eddie will want it put right. Is he going in behind?
He's looking at coming in. I thought he might have thrown it up on the center line again, but
this is Pat Perot's shot.
I think he's afraid of throwing it on the center line, that they might double out everything and make
blank
the
and
kill.
Go home.
So.
It really looks, as you say, he's trying to force Mike Harris to take one, so he has the last rock going home. Or if it all goes wonderful, steal one. But
that's right.
A nice stone by Pat Perot, close by the guard, into the rings, 8 foot. Touch the 4 on the tee line. Ted, from your angle, how much of that rock is visible?
I think he came around pretty tight, so I don't know if Mike can move that out of the rings or just tap it back. Yep, he's going to play the front one, so it's pretty well covered. Well, I don't see too many people leaving the arena.
No, and I don't think you will. Drew Macklin hits, rolls to the edge, almost the double.
Well, Eddie got what he wanted. He's got the rock and play, and this pretty well can eliminate the blank end. But don't quote me on that.
I never underestimate Ed asking if they wanted to split the rings or go behind. John Kawaja indicating he'd like to go back behind again. they can get one hidden here and keep it hidden here, it is really going to force Mike Harris to take one. And we'll be looking at quite a finish. Oh, paper thin by the guard again.
Just
and hides another one.
Tremendous shot.
Real control of the sweeping on that shot, Ted. I mean, just excellent control of it.
Yeah, looking around the arena, it's just amazing the number of non-curlers you see in the crowd that have come out to watch this event. We might get some new members after this.
I would certainly hope so. I would be quite sure we'll get quite a lot of them. I mean, if you can't learn to like the sport after watching this. Richard Hart trying to come right into that stone. Again, close by the guard. And frozen right to it.
Just a perfect shot.
A little bit of an angle so it can be moved, but perfect weight on it, Ted. Just great. Normal for John Kawaja.
It's important for John to stay on his shooter so he can eliminate Mike from still playing the blank end.
No sweeping on it. It's not coming. Good stone. Gets it out of there and splits the rings.
That's just a tremendous shot to get that rock out of there.
I don't know what the last end's going to have in store, Ted. We've had everything in this game. Everything. Great shots, hits, rolls, and a double off an outside one to come in and take out a rock on the forefoot. Just tremendous. Richard Hart trying to freeze to the shot just thrown by John Kawaja. I think he's short. He's on the rings, but his in front of it, but his third shot. Did he get it? Did he get it in, Ted?
It's hard to tell whether he's... it looks like possibly his second shot. Eddie decided to remove it, so...
So he's going to want to hit that and roll over?
He's indicated to hit and try and roll over to...
Eddie, we don't have to get too greedy with the roll here.
A comment from John Kawaja. Eddie, we don't have to get too greedy with the roll.
Well, Eddie's throwing his turn, so...
The difference, when I say I'd like to get a roll, they say how far, eh?
He's a little concerned about driving it back on his own. That's...
I think we've got something coming here. Up to the edge of the blue, he's got the blue and he's rolling, but rolling too far.
Well, he wanted to make sure he got out to it. He certainly didn't want to nose it back onto his own.
Yeah, that would have been the worst, possible result would be to nose it back because suddenly the end changes.
It's certainly not a bad shot.
Nope. Does Richard Harris try to put it back, Ted?
Put her back. Try and freeze. He wants to get his deuce, and the way they're sitting, there's no way he can play the blank. But if he can freeze and Eddie has to run it, his shooter might go, and then he'd have the chance to pick this one off that's out in the 12-foot here.
Mike Harris saying he didn't want to jam it on that one on the back of the rings.
He's going to play the hit.
Is he again looking at Ted that maybe he can get it over somewhere to maybe get out of blank?
Well, if he hits and stays hit and Eddie happens to hit and go, then he might be thinking that.
Sweeping it hard now. It's moving over some. Hit and roll to the back of the forefoot. Nice dome by
Quite
Mike
the
Harris.
roll he wanted to. Another foot, like they would have put him right in behind. So I think Eddie has a fairly easy hit to lay two.
Do you try to hit and stay, or do you try to get a bit of cover, Ted, or spread the rings?
Well, Eddie would be happy to get a little inside roll here. He'd certainly take a steal here if he could get it, but the main thing is to hit and stay, you know, forcing Mike to take his one and have the hammer going home tied.
Scratch again. Same spot.
Well, we sure can't. I don't know if we can get a more exciting game, but we've got to. The winner of this plays Wayne Middaugh, so that's not going to be any easy game either. And all of this work for the right to play Russ Howard. I mean,
well, you mean they don't get easier?
Collins is sweeping all the way. It's moving a bit. The hit and the roll.
Just a
In behind
tremendous
cover.
shot. Just a perfect shot.
Looks like Mike will have to draw the pin and take his one, go home, hopefully go home tied without the hammer. So Eddie's put the game in this position he wants it.
Yeah, he wants to be tied going home with the hammer, and Mike Harris doesn't really have much choice. I suppose he might be able to play a double off that outside one, but if you ever miss and give Eddie a 2-point lead, yeah, you've really got no choice here, I don't think.
No, you have to take your one. But it looks today Eddie's got some rest. And he looks really sharp out there today. I thought all week he looked a little tired and that, but he's come to play today. I think that first end woke him up.
Well, as we've said before, it's one game and the money's on the line. Eddie will play for the money. Keep sweeping. Pull it hard right to the top of the button. 28 seconds. And we're all tied up, Ted, after 9 ends at 7-7. Can I ask you and Mark McDonald, we've got a couple of people here. You're Mike Harris, you're Eddie Werenich. How do you play this?
Short. Well, we're bringing Mark back in to help call this
I don't know
final
why I
end.
didn't bring the hot chocolate. They were all sold out down at the other end. But,
That's
just
no
an
problem.
exciting game, and I go back to that chance for two that Mike had in the fourth end that now has lost his control that he had with the hammer in the first end.
That's right. You mentioned that earlier in the game that you thought that would swing the game in Eddie's favor.
Interesting, though, only one steal end in this game, and that being the third end. Ed stole two, but with the free guard zone rule, the percentages of stealing are increased.
Yes, you'll always end up with a short rock unless somebody makes a great double or something.
Our director of games and chairman of officials, Phil Thompson and Michael Hiltz, are on screen now, or were on screen, and Mike's doing the time clock for this game, and Phil is overseeing the person hanging the score.
They're trying to feather field here.
It looks like that's what he called.
Well, they got a little.
Just about.
Not enough. Rock just sloops through the back of the ring. Mike Harris right in behind it.
I took a tour around the upper track level, and it's just a great viewing area, and not only the view but the sound. You can hear every word the player players say, and it's very exciting for the spectators.
Well, the players have sure entertained the people today with their interesting comments. You have to watch their language out there.
Todd Tsukamoto, I think, has played an absolutely great game. Very, very active. On the floor, partly undercover.
Interesting that Eddie's playing the one in the rings because it is so close to the button and it's partly exposed. I think if he played the front guard, then it would give Mike the chance to put on an even better guard.
I was surprised that Mike wouldn't have come around with the intern shot on that and get the play on the intern side.
Close, nice shot. A little bit of a roll to the outside.
They're important shots. You know, they have to be made. A miss on a shot like that gives the other team a chance to put the cover on. You might not see that rock again.
Well, Ted, this is one game the way it's been played. It's a shame somebody has to end up on the short end of the score.
I think Mike is coming right to the forefoot, needs to come right to the forefoot. Either that or Eddie will go up and take the guard off.
Slid by.
I think the guard's coming off.
I can't. First line from John, get the guard. That's been the first right prediction all day, isn't it?
Oh, that's why
No,
we had to.
I made it. It wasn't bad.
That's why we had to bring Mark in. We're slipping a little.
Guard's gone.
Well, I think Eddie's happy to see that guard out of there.
Mike will probably guard the yellow, maybe. Maybe try to work the intern side a bit.
Well, the chances of scoring a point without something in front of them, the way these guys have been shooting, is very slim.
Not ready. Higher the better. Don't do line halfway. No line to take. That's heavy. Not too easy. No line to take. The break is off.
Nice shot by Drew Macklin. Again, right on the center line. Gives them a little access to the yellow, and I'm sure it'll go. No hesitation. Pat Perot's been asked to remove it.
They're hurrying it a little bit. They might be running close on time. Where you can pick up time in this game is if your front end's ready to go, and that's the key. That gives your Vice and Skip a chance to talk over those difficult shots late in the end.
Halfway.
Put her back. So Richard Hart has to put one up.
This hand still doesn't look that bad for Mike. If it does, the situation stays the same down to his last rock. He can remove that yellow rock and stay on the nose. But I guess Eddie, well, he could roll over a little bit and cover that back one and leave Eddie the draw for them.
It's interesting. Sometimes these ends look like it's all in control for the team that has the hammer, and then all of a sudden, one rock to go and completely changes, and it knocks the other team off guard. I don't think you can knock Eddie off guard, but that's what happens. The these shots being made are pretty routine, and it looks like it's in control, but you never know.
Richard Hart being asked to put it back. I imagine we'll see this right to Mike's first rock, Mark.
Including his first rock?
That's what I'm asking you.
I think so.
Yeah. You've got to get something out there.
Come on, hurry! Fire!
Change the spot just a little bit, just enough to maybe hope for a nose hit or a complete miss, which is
Doubtful, but it's still possible, I guess. Highly improbable, I guess would be the way to put it. Again, he asked for it halfway between the house and the rings, and that's exactly where he got it.
I think this is a good move by John. I think he's saying, okay, let's not get into automatic pilot here, and let's really think about where we're going to end up on the last shot.
That's where I found coaching the junior teams. You know, you tell them to keep it simple, but all of a sudden you have to switch plans, and sometimes they kept in that, as you say, automatic pilot situation, and it's all timing. And Jake Edwards was great at making the switch on you.
And slowing it down and things, just enough to change the rhythm. But we got a good team discussion going now, Ted.
They're all over outside the hog line.
Where's the photographer?
So I suppose watching this gets you keen to get going next year again with take another shot at getting to the
I'll be even
Ontario.
better coach for the Queen's team.
Or you can make any changes in your team next year.
No, but I think they might be.
This sounds like a contract negotiation coming up.
They haven't phoned you.
John Kawachi going to get rid of the guard here. Don't call us, we'll call you.
That's why I haven't thrown a rock this year.
And the guard is gone.
One more time, is
Mike
it?
Harris seems to be taking a little less ice needed the other. He maybe try to get the rock a little the other side. No, side of center. Or are they hitting and rolling on this one?
I think so. I think he's going to change the plan and hit and roll, and hopefully Ed just jams it back so that it'll have one full 4 foot to guard.
You might see Eddie promote this one.
I thought an
One
option
they're
on this
talking
shot would have been the freeze to it.
Yeah, I like that call.
Yeah. It gets the other stone into play and makes him do something with it.
Yeah, that would have been a good call.
He's not. I don't think he's hitting it.
He's not hitting it, no. He's just playing quiet. No, he's playing the short one.
Gotta go! Hurry!
Trying to get a little bit over.
A little tighter to the rings.
Hurry!
Which would allow him to touch the yellow one and come off. You're Ed Werenich. You got to remove it?
No, I think you'll see Eddie look at promoting that, maybe. But he has to worry that Mike doesn't double him out and sit there and.
I think what Richard Hart was doing on that last shot, we thought he was going to hit and roll. I think he was just explaining what they were going to do on their next shot, and I think they've even telegraphed that to Eddie. So he's looked at that and said that if he makes that perfect shot, then it's really going to be difficult for me to make the double and stay.
Well, they had to move the guard over a bit so you have some access to that yellow stone.
Well, this is certainly an important call.
Hey, where's the official? Here he comes. Bag out, fellas. Come on.
I think Ed wants to have 2 shots to win this. If he can make the great shot here, it's probably virtually impossible for Mike to lie shot. So, but if he's just slightly less than perfect, then he'll have another shot on his last one.
So promotion to the button. Simple, eh? It's even on Eddie's out turn for him.
I think they're playing right beside it, top 4.
Looks like that. So they can't make the double on it. They make it even. By the guard. Get a little deeper than it.
I don't think they called that.
I think Mike Harris is going to want to come right down on top of that one.
No, I think the sweeping call was for the line to get it by the front one.
They had to get by the...
Well, this could be interesting yet, Ted.
Well, the freeze is there to force Ed to probably play the high yellow one angled onto the freeze.
And you can be assured that Mike will be awful close with this one.
It's either be close or go home.
Yep. That's his shot. He's right down to throw it. The pressure shot from Mike Harris.
Seems out a long way. Seems to be getting much movement yet.
There's the move. Looks.
They had to wait so long to get some movement there.
Ed Werenich gets a couple. They had to wait the sweeping to get it.
Well, that was just a tremendous game, and we'll certainly be back at 6:30 for the semifinal game.
So Eddie Werenich.
Eddie will be